Heard the call to build your small business? Make it happen with a .net domain name, the place for dreamers for 30 years and counting. Visit keepdreamingup.net for tips and advice, whether you're just getting started or looking to grow. That's keepdreamingup.net.
The equation E is equal mc squared, in which energy is put equal to mass multiplied with the square of the velocity of light. The mass and energy were in fact equivalent. This was demonstrated by Kokras and Walton in 1932 experimentally.
You've got it right here. S4 with E squared in conjunction with Spaced Out Radio.
Alien contact. S4. UFOs. Bigfoot. 9/11. The Greys. The Illuminati. Cover-ups. Rh-negative blood. What are they hiding from?
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Now, the men behind the mics, Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and the SOR Spacewire's Eric Marco. You can find more at spacedoutradio.com.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Now, let's travel into the universe. It's S4 with E squared.
Good evening, everybody. This is unfamiliar territory for me, but we're going to run with it. This is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, filling in for Corey Ruiz on a late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. If you are on the East Coast or all the way through Mountain Time, actually on Pacific Time as well, we are into Sunday morning for S4 with Eric Cooper and friends. I'm going to turn over the mic to the man himself with a beard that's worth a tugging, Eric Cooper.
Hey, and you're listening to S4. We are live in the mountains of Concrete, Washington, home of Forest Moon Paranormal and the Paracon, which is, oh my God, it's 2 weeks. So we are now in the KTLK, the Fringe Network. Check them out. And I'm watching a cat. That's the great thing about live radio. Yeah, I'm watching a cat play with a mouse in my house. Anyway, so the views and opinions of S4 do not reflect that of Spaced Out Radio, our affiliate, or the KTLK, the Fringe. And you know what's awesome is you can now almost listen to Paranormal Radio 24/7. Because there's so many shows jumping into KTLK that you can almost listen 24/7 to a different show. And that's what's cool. So September 23rd, and I'm actually trying to line it up to where all of our speakers get to do a live investigation at the hub, the local bar. So we're working on that, and if we manage to do that, we might actually try to do S4 live at the investigation. We will see. That's up in the air. We will see. So remember our folks in Florida, as they are trying to evacuate. One of our own members is actually in Kansas now with another one of our team members. She is coming here to headquarters. She's moving here permanently in Concrete. She'll be a boots-on-ground team member, as well as the Astral team. And training will start in October. On that note, we are doing the roundtable tonight. We have Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, Everett Themer from Spaced Out Newswire. We have Christina George from Paranormal Connections, Elizabeth England from Spaced Out Weekend, and R. Keith Andrews from
somewhere.
we're doing great.
Parts unknown, weight unknown. The man, the myth, the alien, and legend. R. Keith Andrews.
He's awesome. You got to hear him at Paracon as well. And we're next week, like I said, we're doing Paracon show. I'm having all the speakers in here, and we're doing a pre-Paracon show. So it's going to be awesome. So on that note, how's everyone doing tonight?
I am great. I just got out of an amazing paranormal investigation tonight at our local museum up here in British Columbia on a tour that I run, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And I hope you guys don't mind me just chatting about it for a couple of seconds. But we, during our situation with the forest fires up here, excuse me, during our situation with the forest fires up here, our volunteer fire department really took a hit on the amount of equipment that they were, lack of a better term, lacking during the event. So tonight, or for the last couple of weeks, we had been promoting our recent ghost hunt that we were donating all the funds to our local fire department from what we raised tonight. And we raised $1,060 from people attending the ghost hunt tonight that we are proudly going to turn over to our volunteer fire department so they can buy some much-needed equipment that they will need to fight future forest fires here.
No, that's awesome. That is awesome.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, we're supposed to be helping each other. How better to do it?
Well, they were pretty shocked. I mean, these are people who don't even think they're heroes. You know what I'm saying? They don't they don't even think they're heroes. And we had 7 firefighters show up with 2 fire trucks to help set the mood. And I'll tell you, being able to tell them that they were heroes to all of us for saving our homes during the forest fire, that it was our small way to give back to them and to say thank you. So, you know what, we're pretty proud, and that's $1,060 that will go a long way in helping them get some much needed equipment that they need.
Oh God, yeah, and I've been a volunteer firefighter. I was a volunteer firefighter here for about 8 months. I had to step out, but I can tell you right now, yeah, they don't feel like heroes half the time because and we'd be on our fire truck trying to pull out of the firehouse. And instead of stopping to let us out, you know how many cars just kept on going? We literally had to sit for 5 minutes because we didn't want to hit anybody. And, they're just fire, they're just volunteer fire department. They're not real firemen. Yeah, actually, yeah, they are. They go through the same training, the same fire academy. They have 2 years to accomplish that fire academy, but they go through the same fire academy as real firemen. So, I mean, yeah. As any fireman, there we go, because they are real firemen. They go into the same fires the paid firemen go into. They go to the same wrecks that the paid fire department goes to. So, yeah, And I mean, we'd be cruising down the road and we have cars passing us. It's like, are you serious? I hope it's not your house that's on fire next time, or your car that gets wrecked next time that they have to respond to, because the blatant disregard that you give the volunteer fire department, because they're just volunteers. So yeah, I can completely, in the money that they get grants. They get FEMA grants usually and that's stateside. I don't know how Canada works the funding and whatnot. Probably way different than what we do.
Neither do we.
But that's the only right, because it's a mess. It is.
Well, up here they do get government funding, but you know what? When their sirens are on, we're just too damn polite up here. We just pull over.
Well, you're supposed to. It's a law.
That is. The thing is, with the volunteer firefighters, they're still going to the same. Forget the training. They're still going to the same fire, and I'll guarantee the fire doesn't care what their training is. It'll still burn them.
Exactly.
And let's not
So
forget
anyway-
that almost 80% in the U.S. anyway, almost 80% of the nation's firefighters are actually volunteers. It's only in the bigger metropolitan areas where they're full-time paid firefighters.
Right. Exactly. And most of your rural areas are volunteer firemen.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
So who wants to...
fundamentally wrong there.
It is. And it comes from lack of funding, I guess. I have no idea. I think they I don't know. I won't even go there.
I would love to go first tonight because I have a burning question on my mind, if you don't mind, Coop, that I would
Go right ahead.
really appreciate this roundtable's experience and knowledge. A good friend of mine came up to me tonight at the ghost hunt and pulled me to the side before we started. And he says, Dave, I need to talk to you. Excuse me. I got a little bit of a problem happening at my house. And his brother-in-law was over with his family earlier this week and apparently saw a doppelganger of my friend's son walk down the hall and into his room.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And I have never heard of this happening before. I don't know if that means it's benevolent or malevolent. But now the young lad is sleepwalking and starting to just stare at people in their beds.
Oh, joyful. You got one of them.
Huh.
What am I dealing with?
You're dealing with a doppelganger.
Yeah. No, there's many theories with doppelgangers, and who's to say which one is right? Some say doppelgangers are your prior self. I don't really go with that theory. Some say they're spirits or entities that take on your form, which I think I would go more with that one, especially in this case, where he's kind of possessed by a spirit that took on his form to, I guess, throw everybody off. That would be my speculation on this one. I would say let's get the team in to take a look at that one. But yeah, I'd like to hear everybody's opinion on doppelgangers for sure.
Well, number one, if it were the higher self, the person wouldn't be staring off into nowhere. But
No.
doppelgangers are a spirit that still wants to live in the physical world, but doesn't have the strength to come back or doesn't have the wherewithal to come back. So they do an overlay in order to witness the physical world, but they can be disengaged and sent back home. But you have to disconnect them.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like getting a real nasty leech attached to your heart chakra, where they just won't let go. So, can he be, if you will, put back to normal? The answer is yes. But you're going to need to bring somebody in that can deal with it. And the other issue is, and I do agree with you here on this one, Eric, that bringing somebody in to take a look at the rest of the place, there's something in that house that the doppelganger is looking for, or on the property below the house.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it's come back for.
Yeah, definitely send me details after the show, David, and I'll see about getting the team. We're kind of up in here right now with Bonnie moving and whatnot, so
Yeah.
hopefully I can get sent that way, though.
I'm going to be checking out the house on Wednesday.
Okay,
when just my friend is there and the wife and kids are gone. And I'm going to go in there and check things out with a couple members of my team up here. And then what I would like to do is I'd like to see what we are getting into. And Cooper, I'll be on the phone with you while we're there to see if we can get maybe Tony or somebody to deal with it.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, it's a matter of detaching whatever took him over and sending it back. That's basically what it's going to boil down to. Then he'll get back to normal. then I would suggest the child ground the energy and get recharged.
Absolutely agree there, Eric.
Hey, Cooper, is there anything he could do right now just to protect himself? Because there are so many different theories on doppelgangers. Is there something he should be doing immediately just to kind of cover any potential problem?
Other than no, I would leave it be, just not to escalate the situation.
I will tell you something that you can do that won't escalate the situation, but may slow it down. And that is find a piece of hematite, because it's focused around his room right now. Get a decent piece of hematite, which you can get in any shop that carries, carries gemstones. They'll know what the hematite is if you don't. And frankly, put it under his bed on the floor underneath the head of his bed. And that should help slow him down.
I agree.
Yeah, that's going to ground him.
Yeah.
That's a grounding stone for those that don't know what hematite is. It's in any metaphysical shop. Usually runs about $2 a stone.
Does the size matter, guys?
No.
No, it really doesn't.
No. I have medicinal grade. Oh, it's really good in my shop. It doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Say again, Christina.
This is Elizabeth. I carry this in my shop. I have really good medicinal grade that's tiny, but it's very powerful. So it's just the quality of the stone that matters.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, some say that magnetized. What's your opinion? Some say that magnetized hematite's better. Some were, I personally, I think it's the grade, like you said. But what's your opinion of this hematite they sell that's magnetized?
Personally, I wouldn't touch it with an 80-foot pole.
No, there's no reason to.
I agree.
Why?
You definitely would want to do something soon to at least kind of ground him, especially being a teenager, because a lot of times when you actually have somebody who truly has a doppelganger, it can actually physically start to make them very ill.
So what would cause this? Because they've never had anything happen in that house up until this week.
This found him.
Oh. Yeah, it's not a question of anything happening. It's a question of this thing getting through and spotting him with him being linked to the house. The thing wants something in that property, and he was the easiest target.
Right. Okay.
Or if he had a weakness.
Well, he's young too, so he might, he's definitely would be a target as far as things like that, opposed to maybe an adult.
More vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Okay.
Hey, can we circle back around to something quick? You had said you would stay away from magnetized hematite. Why?
Because the moment you magnetize hematite, it's a man-made modification, and the second you do that, you offset the subatomic the subatomic flux on it, modifying its impact on the human genome.
So you're taking away the natural properties of the stone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I guess I probably could have said that a whole lot easier. Right?
Space travelers lost. Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. Spaced Out Radio.
All right.
But here's a question for you: if it's just magnetite, if it's just regular magnetized iron ore, what's your thought?
What do you mean if it's just magnetite iron ore?
Yeah, well, there is a naturally occurring magnetite that looks like hematite, but it's not hematite.
Magnetite is that's okay. Magnetite, okay. Hematite is for grounding. Magnetite is for amplification.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, needless to say, if you're magnetizing hematite, you're telling it to, you're trying to drive a car by stepping on the accelerator and the brakes at the same time. Magnetite is it's a little more stable, but magnetite has the same sort of impact as clear quartz.
You got it.
We ready to move on? I think I got my
Yeah,
answer.
Everett, what's your question?
You know, I've run across this online and in person a lot today. And I'm kind of tired of hearing about it, so I want to get your guys' opinions on it. Man-made and modified weather. What are your thoughts on HAARP?
Okay.
And, all I've heard today, I've gotten more messages about this is, between Irma and Harvey and the earthquakes, everything is man-made.
Well,
I'm gonna. Here's what's odd. Now, last night I was in the chat room and Christopher sent a picture that was comparing today's hurricanes to 2010, and it was like maybe 5-6 days apart. Same month, maybe 5 days apart difference between today and 2010, and they were, right down to the one in Mexico to Jose and Irma, they were the same size. It looks uncanny. You could look at the ones in 2010 and think they're the exact same ones from today. So it makes you wonder, is HAARP manipulating them? But at the same time, we are in the hurricane season, and every year is different. So they're to be expected, but, every, few years you get the big one like we have with Irma. But it's really sad with Mexico with getting hit by it was only a Cat 2, but that's enough, and then an 8-point-something earthquake at the same time.
Yep.
So what is going on? You got any ideas, Keith?
Yeah, well, there's two factors involved. One, where it comes to HAARP is a first-generation man-designed atmospheric generator. They've taken a lot of the idea from off-worlders, but HAARP itself is designed by man. Now, are they using it to play havoc in certain areas? The answer is yes, but the reason for that is because you cannot learn to generate atmosphere properly if you don't know what it does. This is where HAARP comes in, and they are playing havoc in certain areas. The other problem that is going along with this, as you stated, we're in hurricane season right now. Okay, so you're going to get that anyway. But the added problem is the impact on the neural net that, quite frankly, most of society is adding to. And what I mean by that is the amount of negative garbage that is being promoted through the media, through people's focuses, through all of it. And I mean just simply focusing on who shot who pulled the trigger on what, or ripped off what. All of that is amplifying the instability of the planet. Okay, about 35 years ago, it was proven that negative energy will have a negative impact on plants. It will kill them. Okay, they proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I believe it was done in Philadelphia. They seem to do a lot of weird things. But the point being that Earth is a plant. And you put that much negativity out, it's going to offset the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at a threefold complication here.
Can
Okay,
I
I'm
add
getting a
something
question.
to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to refine that a bit, and it's partially being a geographer, having studied a lot of meteorology, and not being a climate change denier. I agree with what our Keith is saying, because I think that we would have these heavy-duty hurricanes at this time with the way the climate is warming up. But if we were not so negative, something like Irma wouldn't be going directly to the population zone. Because when you're so negative, it's like you're just begging for the world to show you all the crap. And
so negativity would be drawing it in.
Yes.
Negativity is drawing it toward people. It could have been a huge hurricane that stayed out to sea, but when you add the combined neural net with the negativity, what you have is a huge hurricane heading for human beings who are being negative.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I do have a question coming in that what's the triangle place? And yeah, it's all. We got Devil's Triangle on the Japanese side. You got Bermuda Triangle across from it, across the planet in what is it? Florida, Cuba, and what's the other one?
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're referring to, Ron.
But there is a third one of those zones, which is up in the Northwest Territories.
What's it called?
The Yukon. Sorry.
It makes sense.
Oh, the Yukon.
I'm not a photographer. I just know where it's sitting.
Let's not forget the Great Lakes Triangle.
No, see, I haven't heard about that one.
Well, that's a UFO abduction triangle. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about an energy sort of vortex triangle.
And it can be an energy vortex, but honestly, I think, and Keith might be able to support this or deny it, one of the two, but I believe Bermuda Triangle actually has an alien base beneath it, which is what's causing the havoc.
In all fairness, it's above it, but you're in the right place.
Okay. Yeah. Right. But that's what's causing all the havoc, though.
Absolutely. See, everybody's looking for a sunken Atlantis is the place you're referring to. Atlantis didn't sink, it left. But it did leave behind one heck of a mark on the bottom.
Yeah.
So Atlantis went planetary.
Orbital.
Basically. I got you. Okay. And I have heard that before.
I actually met the guy that accidentally did it. That was an interesting conversation.
Can we go back to the weather modification? The reason I want to comment on this is actually this has been something that's been, a really big thing recently on my page. So for people who don't know who I am, I'm a psychic medium, but I've also had very, very accurate precog dreams and premonitions for majority of my life. And starting about 5 years ago, I started putting them out. After 9/11 is when I kind of figured, okay, I need to start putting these things out, but it wasn't taken very well, so I waited a while, and now I've been doing it again. And actually, over the years, I have found that actually, I don't know where I thought I was getting these precog dreams from, or where I was being taken to, or anything, until last year. And realized that the information, I was actually on a ship and being given this information. So one of the things that was shown is I actually had posted about Hurricane Harvey about 3 weeks prior to it even being discussed. And I was already telling people in the Houston area that they were going to need to get out. And literally I was able to, so many people have followed me over the years and seen how accurate they are that when I told a lot of my listeners, they needed to evacuate ahead of time before, they couldn't get out, they took that advice and went with it. At that time also, once Harvey hit, I was doing almost daily updates. For over a month now, I've been having the precog dreams every single night. And I was shown another tornado that was going to hit, and it was going to hit the Florida up the East Coast area. But what was interesting is I was shown that this was a naturally occurring hurricane originally. But then it was manipulated and modified. Now we know that cloud seeding and weather modification has actually been around for a very, very long time. In fact, Seoul, Korea, for the Olympics, actually used seed clouding to keep it from raining because they were supposed to have rain. And it was a special Olympics that they were having, and they shot all these canisters up and seed clouded, and it stopped the rain. You can also do it for the opposite. So it can either decrease a storm or it can increase it. And we absolutely saw the so-called, NOAA plane fly into this hurricane Irma for research. But I absolutely was shown that this was then modified and is being driven in via HAARP. I mean, these are very targeted areas. So again, I put this out. I've been updating. I also spoke of a large earthquake hitting somewhere along the West Coast all the way up to Mexico. Then the 8.1 hit. But the 8.1 was not man-made. The 8.1 had a lot to do with the 9.4 solar flare that we were hit with. And anybody who's a psychic, empath, strong, sensitive, definitely were feeling off. A lot of people was thinking it was like a hangover from Mercury retrograde. But we were being hit by this solar flare, and then we're actually still for the next couple days we'll be feeling the effects for it. But it absolutely caused that over I think the Midwest right now or something. They actually have the aurora lights, and so I just saw a big article on that.
So I have a question. What does all this mean? I mean, is there a reason that we are getting bombarded? I mean, I understand it's a hot summer, it's hurricane season. You can look at all the mundane things going on, but is there something else manipulating all this? You got fires all across the West Coast in Canada. You got hurricanes hitting, on the East Coast and in the South. You got the solar flares, and you got all these Armageddon and people predicting and whatnot, going crazy, throwing fear-mongering into people. Is there anything to that?
Oddly, yeah. But it's not, you have to go back to a statement or a comparison that was made decades back where they said World War I will be fought with guns. World War II will be fought with bombs. We don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. World War III is not people shooting at each other. World War III is Mother Nature going, I've had enough of the negativity. I've had enough of the destructive behavior of mankind on me. Therefore, I'm kicking back. And that's what you're looking at. Now, the ironic is...
and that's what kills me. And I don't mean to cut you off, but humans think they're so bad that they can destroy the planet. I'm sorry, the planet's alive. The planet sees humans as fleas. The planet's not going to die. It's going to shake the humans off because we're fleas. And I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at there's 4 hurricanes right now down down off Texas and Florida right now. One, from what I was told, is dissipating a little. Frankly, I'm waiting for them to merge. The other little problem, and don't get me wrong, first and foremost, I really do feel for all the people that are getting caught in the middle of all of this. Both the people and the people who have loved ones down there. But there's another problem coming up. Now, I think Liz, you mentioned that you were seeing the earthquake on the West Coast. Do you know anything about the one coming in off of the Canary Islands? It's not here yet, but it's going to be. And when it comes in, it's going to trigger a phenomenal tsunami. Do you know anything about that one yet?
Well, that was Christina, but I've heard a lot about the Canary Islands. Because I didn't predict the earthquake down in Mexico. That was Christina. But the Canary Islands, the Canary Islands, they're waiting for that mountain to blow, and that's a huge freaking mountain. The whole island will slide into the sea because and it will, and not only that, it will put a lot of, maybe that's the 3 days of darkness, because last week somebody told me to look at September 23rd, and after September 23rd, I had 3 days of darkness. I went, oh, that's odd.
Well, here's the thing with that one. That
it's okay.
Guillermo, I know how to stop the tsunami, and I do mean that quite literally. I know how to stop it. Not to stop the earthquake, but to stop the tsunami. The tsunami itself is actually going to be a triple tsunami. One that's going to hit on the west coast. And the stupid part is the scientists know it. It's going to stretch from about the middle of the east coast of Argentina all the way to the St. Lawrence Seaway. There's two others it's going to trigger. Right? And I'm not a fear monger by any means. Right? Because like I said, it's easy to stop the actual tsunami if the scientists would get their head out of the sand. But the problem when you're looking at that, it could, and I do agree with you there, that it could quite conceivably cause a lot of darkness, because the amount of junk that's going to be thrown in the air is going to create storms that are you're going to end up with class 6 tornadoes going right down Tornado Alley because of it.
Yeah.
Not class 5.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge volcano. It's a huge amount of just take Mount St. Helens. I don't know, make it 6 times bigger, something like that. I'd have to recheck those facts. Yeah, and also it will cool things off if that happens, but it would be awfully darn dark. And I've heard a lot about that happening very soon. So.
Now, here's a question for you. If that volcano goes, is there any chance it's going to trigger other volcanoes?
Yeah, but only about 80%.
Yeah.
See, all I worry about is Baker, which is right next to me. Glacier Peak, which is not very well known, but it is another volcano right above us. Then you got Rainier, you got St. Helens, you got Shasta, you got the whole chain.
Well, Eric, your problem is this. It's not Guillermo that you got to worry about that triggers that. It's the one that's going to end at the epicenter. Is if you go to the Washington-Oregon state border on the shore, the Oregon-Washington state border, go 150 miles due northwest. You'll find an epicenter of a quake that, when it hits, is going to break 10 point.
Okay.
Now, we're about 10,000 years overdue for it, which is good. But that will light up quite. You're going to love this one. It'll bring Baker up. It'll reactivate St. Helens. The one that you just mentioned will go. In Kelowna, it'll be fun because we've got 3 of them up here in Kelowna, BC, that'll go off that are classified as extinct. They're not.
No.
Okay. I mean, and people are forgetting, and this is one of the reasons why all this is happening. Mankind is so caught up in what color are you? When Mother Nature picks, nobody asks, who did you vote for? Nobody asks, who were you sleeping with? They go, are you drowning, or are you actually still breathing? That's what it's about. It's a wake up call.
Yeah, and the volcano everyone forgets about, well, some don't, is Yellowstone. That one goes off. That's going to affect the Midwest and all the West Coast states.
That's going to happily relocate the tourist industry.
Well, the good thing is I don't see that blowing, but it is causing a lot of pressure and chaos for the West Coastline here because of the fault line. So the pressure on that. And then you have, again, like right now. So the last thing that has been shown, which was a couple of days ago, also is a large-scale earthquake in the Los Angeles area. And I believe that this is going to affect the majority of Los Angeles, at least a 7. It's is what I get. And feel, I mean, because of how strong this is, and I mean, I've been having these my whole life, but the stronger that they become, the harder they are on me. And so the closer they are. And so I'm giving it about a week, but I've already put out a YouTube and a Facebook Live and warning, for those people. Again, it's not for fear mongering. And, a lot of people get upset with me when I put these things out because they say it's, scaring people and everything. But again, this is not what it's about. We live in California. We have earthquakes, and we sure as hell need to be prepared. And the thing is people are so complacent, like you guys were just saying, that, they just never think it's going to happen to them or in their lifetime. And, we are way overdue for big ones. And we know what even, 6 and 7s and 8s have done to major cities like San Francisco and Northridge, things like that, taking down bridges and killing, people. And not even if you survive the earthquake, that's one thing, because a lot of the places are retrofitted. But then what you have to worry about is the places that aren't, and the gas lines that break, and then the whole city's ablaze. So again, we have to just be prepared. We have to have a plan. And I talk about this all the time on my show about people needing to prepare. And I'll talk to people here in California, and I'll interview them, and I'll say, so do you have an earthquake preparedness plan? And they're like, oh yeah, we've got water, and we've got all our canned goods, and we've got a bug out bag in case. And I said, well, so what's the plan if this hits when your family's not together and the kids are at school and you guys are at work at different places across town? Like, what's the plan then? And they sit there and look at me with this blank stare as if I've asked them something foreign. And, and I'm like, and what about if you are all out and you can't get back to your house? Now you've got all those rations all in one place. Now what are you going to do?
Right.
What's your plan B? Do you have a plan? You should even have a plan C. You should have a back route out that's not going to be on the major freeways, because everybody's going to have that same ideas to try to get away. There's a lot of things. And again, I am so surprised at how many ignorant people there are. But yet I also know a lot of people that live in Tornado Alley and have had their whole towns wiped out, and they rebuild in the exact same spot, and it's like, Russian roulette. So, I mean, again, all we can do is tell people and, have them be prepared. And again, for as much flack as I get for, the whole precog dream thing, and even though they're very accurate, I still get a lot of haters. But for me, I'm not trying to fearmonger anybody. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but they sure as hell, people need to start paying attention and start preparing, because big changes are coming. And, that if it saves one person, if one person listens to me and they get the hell out and they make it through the disaster, then, my job is done. So I'm going to continue, because this isn't the end. There's a whole lot more coming.
I'm going to throw an added little wrench into all of this. Because about a week and a half ago, guess it'd be about 6 months ago, I got shown a really fun one. Kilimanjaro's going to go off.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that wasn't the term I had for it.
When? What?
Mount Kilimanjaro is going to go off. I'm not entirely certain of the timing yet, but it's starting to build.
Yeah.
And when it goes, it's going. What I'm being shown is the shock wave is going to be felt for, never mind a mile or two. The actual shock wave is going to go for miles.
Right. Now, and I completely agree. We're not fear mongering, folks. We are encouraging you to prepare. And if you actually look in the archives, we've actually done survival shows on S4. Now, we do have Skagit Homesteaders, which is a group I've created that is, if you look in the library, is nothing but survival and disaster preparedness stuff. And like Christina said, it's all about your family action plan. Do you have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C? Do you have do you have extra medication if you're on meds? Do you have I encourage people, there's a program called Map Your Neighborhood. Go to your local fire department, your local emergency management center, and do a Map Your Neighborhood program. And that's basically designed for neighborhoods. Do you have a disability people in your neighborhood that's identified? Things like this. And your family action plan, it should be your Bible. That's if your kids are in school, you're at work, do you have a plan for where your kids are going to go? Do they have a cell phone? Now, cell phones are probably going to be null and void should a major disaster happen because all the towers are going to go down. But do you have a plan for that? These are things you need to be looking at. And being Army for 19 and a half years, this is second nature. So I encourage people, go look in our library, download as many files as you can, and get versed on every disaster you can think of because stuff's coming. And it's not fear-mongering. It's encouraging you to prepare.
See, I'm a bit of a pessimist in some ways because I look at it going, I know that when it starts to go, I have one of two choices. I either get the heck out into the middle of nowhere, and I've got a really good friend that is so versed in everything survival that, and he only lives 3 doors from me sort of thing, or pray that I'm right at the epicenter. Because I'll tell you, the one thing I don't want to do, and maybe this is being a little selfish, but living through it, I've done that before. I lived through Pompeii. I was there when Manoa got swept into the sea. I'm really not looking forward to this.
And Joyce brought up, we're getting so close to Paracon, everyone stay well. And it's funny you bring that up, Joyce, because, it's predicted that September 23rd is the end of the world. I've seen that prediction. It's like, seriously, at least we'll all be together at Paracon having a blast. Let the world end. I really don't give a damn.
I think this is the fifth time in the last 20 years that the world ended.
Exactly.
I remember being a kid and seeing, these old men with signs. The end of the world is November 3rd, or the end of the... Really? We're still here.
I know it ended in 2000 and 2012, and I think it ended in 1996.
Oh. So, okay, Christina, you got...
I have something.
Go ahead.
I don't have precognitive dreams anymore. I kind of shut those down when I was younger. But I read for a lot of people between 2009 and 2012 who were getting ready for the shift and the world changing, and they were also seeing it was going to happen in 2012. And I kept getting 2017. And I got what Christine is talking about, which is the earthquake, and I also got flooding along the coast, that this would be the year that the flooding actually starts to hit. But there was going to be something in 2013. I think that was New York. Was that 2013? You have to remind me. But I think that was in New York. Because I had people in both California and New York asking me when should they move, when should they bug out of their major city, and where should they go? And because they thought it was all 2012. And I'm like, nope, 2017, but this is, these are the places you can go. But these things that we're talking about, I did so many readings about this that's happening right now back then, and then I just kind of sat back and waited. And here we are.
Here's the thing. Like you're talking about that, I kept getting people around the same time that I was getting told, stay the heck out of Vancouver, and I kept getting shown dirt and, yes, the water, but all kinds of dirt coming down. And about 10 months ago, I got handed a piece of information that explains it really nicely. Now, and don't ask me which one of you, because I'm lousy with names, but one of you guys is a geologist. One of you on the panel, I mean. And what I was informed of, and it holds, is that Vancouver Island is essentially sitting on rubble, on shale, on soft rock, if you will. And it dawned on me with this quake that's going to go off where it is, I knew that Vancouver Island was going to roll one way or the other. But with it sitting essentially on shale, what I got told is it's likely to get nicely relocated about 25 miles due east. Which, by the way, wouldn't be bad if it weren't for the fact Vancouver's only 18 miles due east.
You know what? I disagree with you. You know how big that would have to be, because the mountain line that in Vancouver Island is a mountain peak sticking out of the water that sticks up 7,000 feet. 7,000 feet. There is not 7,000 feet of water in that area.
I didn't know it was that high, but
that could suck it up. Mount Arrowsmith is 7,000 feet. Mount Washington's around 7,200 feet, if I'm correct. So that whole Vancouver Island sinking into the Pacific, I think that is the biggest crock. If anything, and they're talking about tidal waves coming over that. You know what a 7,100 foot tidal wave would have to do to get over that? Now,
actually, the tidal wave would come around it. But that being said, the thing I was wondering about is more of an issue of whether that kind of an impact would actually pick up a chunk of the dirt, not necessarily the whole island, but enough of it to create a mess. Obviously, it won't pick up the entire island.
Well, what if the dust is not even the island? What if the dust is just your wonderful nuclear power plant that's melting down and sending out radioactive dust? I mean,
so it's already happening on the West Coast with Hansford in Washington State when they leaked just a few months ago.
That was over in next to the Columbia River.
Yeah, because when St. Helens went off, we got it up here. We got the ash here from it.
And see, and it's funny because it didn't hit me, and I'm about 300 miles north, but it went to Eastern Washington. It all had to do with the wind flow.
Yes. Yeah, and that is very much where where it's really gonna matter is which way the wind blows when everything else does.
And what's funny, we don't have any immediate fires in my area. Yeah, we were getting ash from the fires in Eastern Washington, Oregon, Canada, coming down on our cars here just last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, really? Did a volcano go off somewhere? No, it's just the fires. Like, seriously? And we don't have any fires in my immediate area. That's a long range for ash to come from.
Well, this is why when we get onto the more positive side of things, if you will, when people are looking at, the so-called organic food, and they say, well, it's organic because we don't put chemicals in it. And I'm thinking with the air currents, you're still using the same air. The chemicals that the neighbor is spreading is going to end up on your property. And there ain't nothing you're going to do to stop it. So, I mean, people are forgetting a lot of the time about the fact that we're all using the same air, we're all using the same water system. It just happens to come in, when you've got the different cities. Obviously, if they're stuck in a valley, pollution's going to be heavier in those areas. But it's the same air sooner or later.
Exactly. Now, Christina, do you have a question for us tonight?
Well, yeah. This was actually something that was posed to me from one of my listeners recently, and it had to do with paranormal teams and some of actually the newer teams that are coming out. What is happening is they're finding a lot of clients that are, they reach out to my team too, but with the shows and traveling, I haven't really been, and being sick, haven't been able to do as many. But they're contacting teams, and these teams are going out, and all that they are doing is validating whether there is activity or not. They are doing nothing else to help the client. They say that, that's all they do is validate. So they have to reach out to somebody else to come in and do a cleansing or get rid of what the issues are. And so the listener asked me, did I think that these types of teams that cannot do a complete investigation and clearing and help the clients, should they stick to investigating public locations opposed to personal clients, private clients?
I'm completely on board with that one. But, okay, so we're like 4 minutes before the break, and we'll carry this on after the break. But here's my that is one of my biggest pet peeves.
Sure, you got to fire me up right before break. Thanks, Christina.
Right. So here, okay. I'm going to start with new team. Yeah, to me, nobody in this field is a professor, is an expert. Now, I'll start with that. any team that is under 5 years, to me, is a new team.
Yeah.
Because how many, Forest Moon, we do 5 cases a day. We have a heavy caseload. But how many teams out there, oh, we do 2 to 3 cases a month? You know what? You don't have that much experience. And, next step, if you're not in it to completely clear that situation, you're not a paranormal team. You're a ghost hunter. There's a difference. Ghost hunters, I agree. Go to Waverly Hills. Go to the hot spots. But are you investigating a hot spot? Why? Because a hot spot is a hot spot for a reason. It's already been investigated. It's already been proven to be haunted. So what are you doing? I take the team to Northern State for one reason. We take our new team members there to show them the equipment works, to test our protection. If you come home with an attachment, then obviously your protection's not good. We'll remove the attachment, help you rebuild your protection, your shielding, whatever, and go from there. But that's the only time we go to Northern State. That's the hot spot here. But no, if you're not in it to help a client, then you are not a paranormal investigative team. That's my opinion. And I get hated. I have a lot of haters out there because of what I say. But honestly, you know how many times I get a phone call or a message from a client that's in tears and terrified because some team went into their house and, one, they validated the fear, and two, they walked out. So now you've got a client that's even more terrified because they're stuck with something they already know is there and was validated by a team with a picture or an EVP. Oh, cool, I've got a picture and an EVP. Bye, have a nice day. And
right.
So now what do? They fortunately find our team to come in and clear it. But, for the ones that don't find clearing teams, emergency response teams, in that case, then they're kind of stuck. And you see suicides because of paranormal. You see, come on now, people. If you're not in it to clear the situation, you are not helping anybody. You're not doing paranormal in the name of science because playing with toys is not science. We could go on. This could be a whole show, and it has been before. But, go ahead, Dave. You have 1 minute.
I can do this in 1 minute.
A minute?
Yeah, apparently I'm capped on time on this. This is why I hate the paranormal. This is why I hate it. That is my speech at the Forest Moon Paracon in just a couple of weeks from now. And I hope all of you can come and check it out. Because we did a show about what we call on Spaced Out Radio called Ghosts of the Great White North. And one of the teams that we had come in, where we bring in a different team from a different Canadian city to tell us about their investigations. And one of the teams we had happened to be a part of the Taps family. And it amazed me, man. Absolutely amazed me, the rules and guidelines they need to follow. They are not there to help the spirit. They are not there to help the client. They are only there to confirm or deny whether or not there is paranormal activity. And some teams do not even hand the evidence back over to the client.
Oh my God. What kind? I mean, pardon my French,
well,
but
let's get to that right after the break. Coop, do you mind if I hit this button?
Hit the button.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed on tonight's show by tonight's hosts and guests are not necessarily those of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays, Spaced Out Sundays, or spacedoutradio.com. Listener discretion is advised. And now back for hour number 2, we have Corey Ruiz, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal, and S4. You can find Forest Moon Paranormal on Facebook. And for more information on S4, visit spacedoutradio.com. And now, here's Eric Cooper and Corey Ruiz. Filling in for Corey Ruiz, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, hanging out with Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal and his big bad roundtable. We're going to be giving Eric a few beard tugs in just a couple of weeks at the Forest Moon Paracon, September 23rd in Concrete, Washington. We would love all of you to join on in. And now, here's the bearded wonder himself, Eric Cooper.
Hey, yeah, we're back. We're back from break. And we are in the middle of a very heated discussion about corrupt, I don't even like the word, no, I'm not going to say corrupt, paranormal teams that don't know what the hell they're doing.
It's incompetent.
So, Dave, go ahead.
Oh, yes.
I know
yeah,
you
get me
I know
involved.
You want to go off.
Well, you know what? I don't even know where to start with this. I really don't know where to start with this, because this has been such a pain in my side in regards to this whole experience with paranormal teams. I mean, there are people out there trying to do good work. There really are. Good, honest work, trying to solve problems. And as far as I'm concerned, these groups that are just going there to confirm or deny, you're not accomplishing anything. You're not helping the client. You're not taking care of the spirits involved. There's nothing. The only thing you're doing is feeding your own ego. And when's the last time, and we've got some brilliant people on this panel, when is the last time Christina or Keith or Everett or Coop, I know you do something different, so I'm leaving you out of this, or Elizabeth, when's the last time you went on a paranormal investigation and the spirit said, "Oh, there's an investigator here. I better start making things rattle, or I better go talk into that machine"? It doesn't happen that way. You cannot determine when the spirit is going to be active or not. So just because these teams are showing up and there's no activity and they're telling people, "Yeah, we're not getting anything. I don't think your place is haunted." Well, you weren't there 2 weeks ago when the doors were slamming, the cupboards were opening and closing, and the child in the house couldn't fall asleep because there was someone standing at the end of their bed.
Well, that's just it. It's not like they pick and choose, or like you can pick and choose. You walk in, but the thing I found is if they're there, even if they're not doing anything, you can feel them. They may not be throwing dishes around the room, but you can certainly feel where they're sitting if you've got the ability to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm going to say, I've got a guy in Forest Moon in the actual group that he's all science-minded. There is no such thing as a medium that can pick up, no, mediums can't be scientifically validated, so they're a fraud. And if you can't go into a location and actually pick up scientific, frankly, you have to have balance. I believe in science. I also believe in psychics. And the perfect balance is when you can send a psychic in, she picks up a name, you send in your equipment, or you even look up a historical record and say, "Yep, look, Brian used to live here, he died," and your medium comes up and says, "Oh yeah, I talked to Brian." That's validation.
Well,
or you get, I can't remember the name of the equipment, but there's a word generator. I don't have a whole lot of faith in them, but sometimes they work. So if you take in your word generator and it comes up with Brian, and your medium says, "Oh yeah, I talked to Brian," there you go. Again, validation between equipment and your psychic. That's where a perfect investigation is going to be. And then you help Brian pass over. Case closed.
Here's where it gets a little complicated. I actually went to work. I was actually called in to work on a cold case file for the police one day. Actually, it was over several weeks, but I've actually got the maps where I ended up drawing the map based on the guy's name, birth date, and the last known location. Mm-hmm. And long and the short of it was, I pinned down a name and I told the officer, this guy's name, he's critical to the investigation, but he's got nothing to do with the problem, right? And long story short, the guy that I wrote the name down for turned out to be an owner for the property that had only owned the property for about a year, if that, right? Mm-hmm. And the officer was going to have to find this chap. This guy showed up at the property, and they needed his go-ahead to do the investigation. It did end up resulting in finding bones, but I have no idea what happened after that.
Right.
And that's where we get this. You want corroboration, you want proof.
Well, I want to clarify something because Tripp's bringing up the timing point. So you have all these teams also. They do a night investigation because, the spirits are most active after dark.
Really?
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 It's like, I'm sorry, but spirits are active all the time. And it doesn't matter. And I can state this 100%. It does not matter if it's closer to Halloween, because our caseload does not go up because it's Halloween and the veil is thinner. That does not affect a whole lot.
You know what, though?
Not when it comes to our caseload.
You know what, though? I prefer actually investigating in the night, and I'll tell you why. For my own personal effect and my own personal, because what I try and do when I go out for an investigation, I don't like to rely on a lot of technology. I like to rely on my own personal senses. And from what I feel, I notice at night, especially if I take my glasses off to correct my eyes, I see a lot more at night than I do during the day, and I feel I get a better feel for the investigation the darker it is.
That makes total sense.
It does, and it's also quieter. It's also quieter at night because everyone's asleep, or they should be asleep, or you know. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. But
me,
I'm go ahead.
I just say, for me, it's completely opposite. Like, you know, after doing this for so long, and I'm 50, and, you know, it's like, I'm tired. I don't want to stay up until 4 a.m. investigating. So I can go in and immediately, you know, pick up on whatever is there, interact, get the information, let the team come in, do all their electronics, because I don't do the electronics. And then, you know, we tell the client, show them what we got, tell them what we picked up on, and do what we have to do to get rid of things so I can get home. Like, I have things to do. I do the most of my work at night, so I can't be investigating all night unless I'm going to an event or a conference, and then, of course, I'm up drinking tequila with Dave and investigating cars.
Oh, no. We don't do that. We don't do that.
Real quick, Joyce has a good question. Is there any difference between the full moon? And honestly, I don't think no, the full moon does not affect spirit activity. The full moon is more energy than it is anything. You can use lunar energy for magical work, not with spirit work.
Well, magical work, I have to tell you, I lived in Salem. All sorts of stuff happened on the full moon because it was Salem and there were a bunch of people doing moon magic. And there were things that were out that had been summoned, etc. And it was just craziness. I would just go home and I'd be like, I'm going to hole up here and eat some ice cream and, you know, watch TV because you don't want to go out there.
Well, I can see that happening, especially if there's summonsing, you know, you'd have an increasing activity. But I would say just in a regular, you know, investigation or a regular interaction, you know, it's not like they know, like, oh, tonight's going to be a full moon. We'll be a little stronger tonight for everybody. You know, I mean, if there's activity, there's activity. That's just how it is. If they're going to, you know, I mean, that's the great thing about having a psychic or available or on your team, especially if they're good, is even a lot of times, again, these spirits aren't like circus monkeys. So when you come in with the equipment and you're like, okay, I want you to talk into the box, you know, it's like, what if they don't want to talk into the box, you know? So,
right.
So if you do have a psychic medium, you're able to interact. And a lot of times, you know, the spirits don't want to talk. When we were in Concrete last year, I walked into the local bar after we all got done. We decided to go hang out and check out this place. And we walked in, and immediately I see this woman standing there. And, you know, I'm like, here, we're in a bar, so, you know, I'm really not trying. I was just talking about how, like, everywhere I go, I feel like I'm, you know, a circus act, because as soon as anybody finds out I'm a psychic, they want me to give them a reading, or they want me to tell if there's anything around them. And so I wasn't going to say anything. And, of course, I'm sitting with all the guys at the bar, and everybody keeps saying, so, you sensing anything in here? And I'm like, well, actually, yeah, there's a lady standing over there behind the pool table. She came through the wall from over there. I don't know what's next door, but she came through the wall over there. And I'm describing her and everything. And I think somebody had asked the bartender if they knew, and she was like, well, no, I'm new here, so I'm not sure. And then I went to go over by the bathroom, and I see this spirit of a man. And he had no problem with me, but he had a real issue with men. And he was wanting a fight. And every time somebody came from the bathroom, they would say, do you sense anything over there? And I'm like, yeah. So I described it. Somebody else had seen it. And so I just left it at that because I couldn't get any validation from anybody. So we leave. And the next night we do the ghost tour with SJ and Russ Wells. And they were doing the tour. And when we got back over by the bar, they were talking. And Dave, do you even remember the lady's name? Because I remember that somebody said, "Do you have a name?" And I gave this name, and nobody could validate it. And then SJ, when we got over to the bar, she starts telling the story about the movie theater that had been next door, and that this woman haunts it. And she blurts out the name, and I wasn't really paying attention, and I was talking to some other people, and then all of a sudden she said the name, and I was like, "What did you say?" And everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly who you picked up on." And I described her, and SJ and Russ were able to validate absolutely everything I had said. And even the bartender about the man, she said that she had actually been in there by herself closing up. And she looked on the CCTV that's in the bar that you could see from the back room. And she saw a man sitting at the end of, and I saw him too, sitting at the end of the bar. And so she thought, "Oh my God, how did he get in here?" And she walked out of the kitchen and into the bar, and there was nobody there. And I described him, and she's like, "I've seen him," but she couldn't validate the other things, but I was able to get it afterwards.
Well, and that's what's great about having a Paracon in concrete, folks, because the whole town is haunted. The whole town was actually built on a crystal and mineral quarry. So you got the magnified factor there. Then we have two rivers that intersect, that cross. So that's also an energy amplifier. You take that, and the fact that the town was actually built in the 1900s, burned down at one point in time. You have a lot of crisis history. So we have UFO sightings all the time. We have Bigfoot here. It's the perfect environment for a Paracon. Hands down.
I gotta ask, but I'm presuming when you say that it's built on a crystal bed, I'm presuming you're referring to quartz.
Yes.
Do you know by any chance what type of quartz?
I don't. I don't have that much detail. I just know that the actual town was built on a quarry.
This ought to be entertaining.
So, yeah, you can, and as far as the spirits crossing from building to building, they do. It's like a conduit. SJ and Ross have actually investigated damn near every building, in concrete. And they would find one spirit in one building, and they would actually find the same spirit in another building. So they do, pass back and forth. There are no walls.
Well, at least I know why you and I had that wonderful little discussion concerning my coming down there in the first place.
Oh, hands down. Yeah, you're going to love it here. I want to start off my first question because it kind of has to do with what we're talking about. It has to do with spirits. And so I like to share the wealth, from time to time. So tonight's questions actually come from Jason Loop of the Spirit Rope. So I asked him to give me the questions for tonight. So his question is, difference between orbs and spirits. Can spirits use orbs as energy? I'm going to follow that question up with, are spirits trapped here in purgatory? Now, and I told him that's an easy question. I can answer that one, but the whole panel is going to definitely interject to this one. So there's a whole lot of different types of orbs. Some are spirits, some are actually fairies, some are actually aliens, and spirits can take on the form of orbs as energy. Are spirits trapped here in purgatory? No, it's not purgatory, but spirits can be trapped here through violent death or death before their time. And I'm going to end it there and go ahead, answer the question.
Well, where it comes to them being trapped, given the parameter that trapped means they haven't figured out how to get out, the answer is yes.
Exactly.
This is definitely not purgatory. Purgatory is a whole other place, and it's a lot more fun.
It's here where we're living right now.
Right. I think this is hell.
Purgatory itself is a whole different ball game, and it's a lot more fun when you get over there. I'm one of the, I don't know if I'm lucky, but I've been over there often enough to know what's going on as far as that side goes. But where it comes to the orbs, one of the questions was, can spirits, consume orbs, if you will, for energy? And the answer, I have seen it done, but they can only absorb, they can only consume certain orbs. Let's face it, the orbs that are alien ships, the spirits won't consume.
No, because those are a different energy. Those are actual craft.
Yeah.
So most definitely.
A little hard to eat.
Right? No, I got to say, I've actually seen on some of the clients' videos where orbs can actually morph into two different orbs. Have you guys ever seen that one?
Absolutely.
I have.
That's right. It's the same idea.
I figured.
Letting go of another one, or in some cases where, especially when you're dealing with the living orbs that are the entity themselves, you're witnessing a birth. Okay, and it's absolutely fascinating watching that, because they glow so bright compared to what they were, and then all of a sudden, because what you're looking at is what the heck is it? Asexual reproduction.
Right.
And it's just absolutely fabulous to watch. You just don't see it very often, or at least I haven't seen it very often.
Christina, what's your perception of orbs?
Well, I'm not a big orb fan, to be absolutely honest. I hate to disagree with anybody. I mean, I have seen and captured, intelligent activity from orbs, but they're very far and few and in between. And it's like, I feel like every time I see some team post up like they're walking down this dirt road and somebody's taking a picture with a flash and they're like, oh, the spirit activity is everywhere. And I'm like, no, you dummy, you just picked up a bunch of dirt, or they're up in the attic, the dusty attic that nobody goes up to. And they're up there snapping pictures, stop putting this out there. It was driving me crazy. And then you've got all these new investigators and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. You guys just must have so much attractive energy. Look at all those orbs. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to throw up. Like, I just can't even stand looking at it anymore. And I used to just go on tangents on my show about the whole orb phenomena and all the dumb things. I mean, I've got a professional photographer, this was on my team that, would look at and I mean, we just used to get just tons of pictures that people would send us, and it just drove me crazy. And so I would send them to the team member to look at all the pictures, and it kind of started to drive him crazy too. So, so again, although yes, I absolutely believe in orbs. Again, capturing them on film, it's far and few and in between.
They are, and
I agree with you.
You can tell the difference. But if you're new to the field, like I said, in my opinion, under 5 years, you're new to the field. And I've got a lot of pictures from Iraq. Iraq is nothing but a dust field. We won't even talk about the dust storms. But so I look at all my pictures, and yeah, it's all dust, nothing there. But the videos where you see, and even the videos where you see an intelligent moving orb, I have to look at real close, and because insects and flying bugs is that's the other mistaken orb. Now, true orbs aren't white. You can actually find a lot of orbs if they're a different color that I would say are a little more valid.
Right, and then sometimes if you actually zoom in on them, you can actually find a face of different things. I mean, we've had some incredible, pictures over the years, but I mean, again, even in the last 15 years that I've been doing this in the public eye, there's a handful of really good pics of an actual orb. So again, when you just see him floating, that's like, being, Zach Baggins and finding a demon possessed person or demonic activity every week. So, it just doesn't happen. It's just that's not the way the reality in real life is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that the orbs that are not dust bunnies, they really aren't as frequent. The only reason that, from my standpoint, that I've seen as many as I have is, I got 50 years in the field. I started doing this when I was a kid, never mind doing it publicly. So,
yeah.
In that length of time, I've seen pretty much the whole array. But most of the pictures, when people when I have been shown pictures, look at all these orbs I'm looking at. Well, did you bang the curtain first?
Right. Did you sit on the old couch? Everybody plopped down, and then you started taking pictures of everybody around in the house. And again, everybody wants to go to an attic. If there's an attic, everybody wants to go and investigate the attic. And everybody's trying to get in there. And they're even when we're just in a regular room, when we make everybody go and sit down and wait for any residual dust that may have got kicked up, or we're walking across the carpet or whatever, it has a chance to settle. But again, this is all stuff that you kind of learn over the years. And, when you until you have that experience, it's very hard. And these investigators are so, yearning for, that great, capture. And so everybody thinks they have. And then everybody's like, anybody who's been in the field, they're like, yeah, not so much. But again, you might have all kinds of people that follow that person, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. They don't have a clue either, but it blows their ego up. And now they're like, oh yes, I really got an orb.
Well, that's just it. And, the dangerous part there, like we were talking earlier about the investigator, the groups that go out and just identify and say, yeah, you've got activity here, have a nice day. You're going, because you have new groups firing up, and they got to come from somewhere, because let's face it, you've been at it for 15 years. Eric has been at it for decades, right? But you guys are going to eventually pass away, like it or not. And
no,
come up.
My kids will take over.
Yeah, but the whole thing is this: when you've got new groups, if they're coming up and they go, okay, I've identified it. Okay, I can't do anything with it. If that group is professional and turns around and phones somebody, either has them in the wings going, if we find something we don't know how to clear, can you come in and deal with it? If they are taking the helm and going, I'm going to phone somebody to bring them in, and phone somebody like Eric or phone somebody like you and say, look, we've got a problem here. Can you come in and deal with it? Because we don't know how to clear it. If you're doing that, then the new group has value. Because you can't get to all the preliminaries to start with. Because let's face it, not all of them are active. Right. But you have to have that professional side where they call in somebody themselves, not... Well, that was fun.
But they can't even get along with each other. So that's the problem. They don't want to work with other teams. There's way too much ego, and everybody does not see each other as, hey, I'm new. If I take a picture, let me send it to somebody who's more experienced and get their opinion on what this is before I go and post it to social media. Oh no, they're posting it right away. Oh my, look what I got, and they don't give a damn what somebody says. If we turn around and say, oh, that's a dust orb, they're like, oh no, it isn't. How dare you tell me something like that? I know what a real orb is. And they've just popped into the scene. So again, everybody's ego, everybody's competing with each other. In fact, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but here on the West Coast, and I'm in California, teams don't even tell other teams or post on social media where they're investigating at because they don't want anybody else to go and investigate it. They want to be the only one that's allowed to investigate that. And they will actually go to local places and get contracts with them to be the only investigative team that can investigate there. They don't want anybody coming and, doing their own research and getting their own evidence, which might validate and help, back up what they got. No, absolutely not. No, you're the competition. Stay away. I own this. I was literally told that I could not go to Fresno, California, not just a small town. I was banned from the city because another well-known radio show host and investigator out there lived out there, and he said, this is my territory. You stay in Northern California. That's where your area is. And I thought, so the very next weekend, I went and did a live stream right from Fresno and made sure to tag him in it because I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, really, are we in like 6th grade? Like now you're going to kick me off the playground because, you're staking your claim. But it would be great, like you said, if people, the younger ones, the newer ones would come to more of the experienced people to get some almost like mentoring and help them through, different things before they're just out posting and going crazy. But I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it.
And yeah, that's what sucks. That's what's irritating. It's all about territory. This is my turf. Really? Well, since it's your turf, do you actually pass over the spirit that needed help? Well, no, because that's not what we're investigators. We don't do that. Well, then, get the hell out and let us take care of this. Come on now.
The unfortunate part here is even in this field, when you get, people say they're investigators or they're whatever. The problem that I run into is, and I found it in this field and in my own field, where you go, oh, I feel the place may be haunted, or I feel I may have been abducted, right? The really frustrating part from my standpoint is even with people that I've had a lot that'll come to somebody and go, I think I may have been abducted. I need to look into it. Most of the people that claim to work in this field will still look at the person and go, you're out of your mind.
Mm-hmm. And that's what pisses me off too is I've contacted 500 different teams for the GPI, and out of the 500 teams, maybe 20 of them even remotely looked at abduction and UFO because that's not paranormal. Yeah,
right.
It is.
It's still very separate. Still very separate.
It shouldn't
even
be.
Though we know, absolutely. I mean, again, that's what I'll be talking about at the Paracon. But and the whole reason I have Paranormal Connections, even though I can show all kinds of ways that they are all interconnected, the fields are very, very separate. The people in the paranormal don't believe in aliens and UFOs and abductions, and they usually don't believe in Bigfoot. The UFO people believe in aliens and abductions, but they sure as heck don't believe in ghosts and spirits. And they don't usually like Bigfoot. And then the Bigfoot people don't like the other two, and so it's just kind of that everybody's in their own little thing, which is why I was so glad to be part of your Paracon, last year, Eric, because, again, that's what I've been looking for. That's what these fields need. We need to have people out there talking about all these different fields and seeing the similarities and seeing, the reports and the correlations between the fields. That's what we need.
You know what what I find absolutely fascinating with that, though? The people that believe in aliens and in abductions, most of them will look at it one way or another and go, we believe in abductions. We know that they're using telepathy or other psychic abilities. And yet we don't believe in psychics.
Right.
Or
it's crazy.
Non-corporeals, but we understand that the UFOs are, they're invisible or they pass through walls. And I'm like, how can you possibly go, it doesn't work, we believe in one and not the other, when you're right there saying they're combined?
That's something in the abduction field that has bothered me, where the aliens are doing all of this genetic stuff and hybridization, but they're not physical. It's like, well, then why are they doing genetic stuff if they're not physical? and then people will try to make theories based on their disbelief. And it's just, cut it out. They have to be physical if they're doing genetic stuff. Why would they care if they weren't?
Well, I can give you an answer to why they would care if they weren't, but the reality is they are.
They are, right. Yeah, there's other stuff they can do with that the whole process, but they are physical. There's a reason why they're doing what they're doing, and part of it's that they're physical.
The big thing is they're dimensional. They're just different vibratory rate.
Right. And that's what kills me. There's 16 different races, and you'll probably correct me, Keith, but I know there's 16 documented races that are actually abducting, each with their own agenda. Some for science, some for sociology. As funny as that sounds, some of them like to experiment with humans and watch their emotions. Some of them, well, frankly, were a snack, and those are the ones that don't come back. But, and I'm happy that finally, this is the first year that we've actually been able to stop abductions. And I've actually today was talking to an excellent ally for the GPI that actually does an abduction crisis center. So, I was chatting with him and told him we've actually been able to stop abductions. We actually have an ally on the team now. And so we'll be working together. He's going to be joining the GPI, and that's, all a step in the right direction. Well, now if we can expand it,
I can tell you this: I'm not going to argue with you about the 16 confirmed races that are doing it, but I can tell you there are well over 16 that are. Mm-hmm. But I can quite happily go with the 16 confirmed. I mean,
right
to the point. This is where I back up and go. I don't research 16, this stuff to live it.
No, I know. And 16 sounds way better than 160. I understand that one.
Yeah, but they may have only confirmed 16, or your research may have only revealed that. The point being,
right.
Like I've told you, like I've told Dave, Dave and I have had some phenomenal conversations on that one. I told a chap one day, one of these days I gotta quit and I gotta start investigating this stuff instead of just living it. But I sort of look at this and go, a lot of the researchers I've talked to, I'm listening to them going, and when did you say you started actually researching? Because I think it requires thinking before you get into the field.
They're doing it like work study, or like on-the-job training. Go learn as you go.
And researching is more than just watching a YouTube video.
Well, it was last I checked.
Right.
Hey, well, we know that the training is the ghost hunting shows now. That's the new training tool for the new investigators.
Oh, is that right?
I've interviewed so many people that are investigators, and I asked, how did you learn about the paranormal and how to investigate? And they said, we watched so-and-so show, and we just do what they do. And I'm just like, oh, my gosh, like this is...
it's got to be real. It's on TV.
Of course, absolutely.
Oh, my God, and that's my other pet peeve. The paranormal is not entertainment. I got into that discussion with another team just a week or two ago. Well, we're doing it for entertainment. Really?
Absolutely.
So it's entertaining.
They're monetizing their YouTube channels. That's what they're doing.
So it's entertaining that somebody is getting terrified by being pushed down the stairs by a spirit. It's entertaining that an abductee is waking up terrified with marks in their body, nosebleeds, and missing time. That's entertaining.
I don't know about you. I mean, I suffer from PTSD because of this kind of thing. I personally find it that enjoyable.
No, not even a little bit. That's why I get irritated.
This is one of the reasons you and I have had the discussions about the concerns. I haven't been to Paracon yet that I haven't had a problem with. And it's not been the people.
Right. But yeah, it's not an entertainment factor, and if you're in it for entertainment, then you're in the wrong damn field. This isn't the field to make money off of. Frankly, there's no money to be made here unless you're going to a hot spot charging people $100 or $500 or whatever. But even then, I find it unethical. That's just me.
Well, from my standpoint, the ethical side is this. An honest day's pay for an honest day's work. With you being a paranormal investigator and you take care of the clearing, being paid for it so that you can continue doing your work is absolutely, in my opinion, an ethical thing. Because if you don't pay for it, if you don't get paid, you can't do your job. You can't do it as effectively because you got to go get another job to keep food on the table. It's the same argument that we run into in the psychic work. Many people won't charge for their abilities because they feel it's wrong. It's a gift. Well, a surgeon has a gift with their hands and spends years perfecting their trade, right? A basketball player has a gift with their ability. Psychics and UFO, proper qualified UFO and UFO or paranormal investigators, qualified psychics, in other words, they're actually doing the job, not just making it sound really good, need to be paid as well, or what they end up doing is they can't do that kind of work because you have to go out and earn a living so you can actually eat. But I do agree, don't overcharge. This issue, like I've talked to some people that, I want you to go out and investigate, or I want you to come and do a reading or a clearing, and they're charging like $10,000 to do it.
Yeah, crazy.
You're kidding me, right?
And what's so crazy is that, the paranormal is just, if you're in the paranormal, it is expected of you to do investigations and all of that for free and on your own dime. I remember when I finally, just a couple years ago, started charging for readings, only because anytime anybody sees free readings, oh my God, I had so many people, daily wanting to know where their keys were and what the lottery numbers were. None of the things that I could give them, but, all this stuff. So once I started charging, oh my God, I got so much flack for even daring to charge for that. And so I'm surprised, like with people charging for clearings and stuff, that they're not being attacked for that, because this field is definitely aggressive when it comes to something they don't feel is right.
Yeah,
and they're very
opinionated for what I do, right? And I've been charging for years, but the reason I do it is quite literally because, and I've told people this, if I don't charge, then I'm not going to be able to help people because, quite frankly, I like to eat. And,
True.
Sadly, I like to eat too much. But, the reality of it is, yes, you get flack. Yes, you get people that are telling you you're doing the devil's work or you're being rude to people. And yet I look at that, and this is where my pet peeve becomes a real pain in the neck. But I look at the people that are supposedly guiding people down the spiritual path and refusing to open the doors to homeless and refusing to help the military, the veterans that have gone to protect the country. And yet they're refusing to turn around and help these people out when they get home and they've been damned, they've been hurt. Right. The most appalling thing that I ever heard, and I'd love to lock the guy in a room with a bunch of veterans that are, and don't get me wrong, I don't like veterans suffering, but this guy I would love to lock in a room with a bunch of veterans that did their tour of duty and ended up losing friends or getting amputated. Put him in the room, because this guy made the really brilliant statement that there has never been a war on Earth and nobody has ever been killed in a war. Nobody's ever been an amputee.
I remember that discussion. We talked about that, and I gladly put the soldier that lost his leg in Iraq in a room with him.
Oh, absolutely.
And he was a good friend of mine at the Warrior Transition Battalion, and he went on. He wanted to stay in the Army, so he went to Fort Benning and became an instructor for infantry.
Yeah.
Because he was amputated from the knee down. He had a titanium leg. Yeah. But hands down, there's countless soldiers that died in Iraq, for example, countless soldiers that died in Somalia. And for anyone to come out and say it never happened, I gladly sit in a room with them.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds almost a little twisted, but the type of spirits I love running into and helping are the veterans that are trapped because they don't know how they ended up where they were. And they're trying to get home. Those people are a riot. Once the excitement that you feel off of them when they realize that they can get home, right, is just amazing to watch. And any medium that's watched them go, because I don't know if other mediums see the individual go. In my case, I do. Right, and it's just the most amazing thing to watch. I just don't have the technology that you've got to actually record what I see.
No, we're down to, and amazingly, we're down to 15 minutes already. Keith, you haven't asked your question yet. Go ahead and ask your question.
Well, I'm curious and this probably falls under the paranormal investigation side of it at the same time, but I'm curious how much impact you guys feel the actual emotional state of people has on the actual atmosphere of this planet, the atmosphere, the tectonic stability, that side of it.
I'm not even sure to answer that one. As far as our clients, they are completely, in fact, most of our clients stay in our group because they know we actually took care of them. As far as the tectonic plate aspect, that's not come up.
Fair enough. This is why I figured I'd ask, because I figured you might just as well go out and see what happens, because I know from what I've seen, and it's a question of, because Earth, from what I've come across, because Earth itself is a living plant, right? Every time this sort of thing happens, it seems to amplify every time you end up with more of the population percentage-wise getting agitated. It seems to amplify the number of not minor earthquakes, but the number of major ones, or the number of major tornadoes that kick in. It's just something that I've been playing with because I've been watching it happen. And of course, in my case, my memories date back a lot further than most. And I'm seeing a correlation between, quite literally, the rising tensions and a sudden civilization ending, reaction, be it a tornado, a tsunami. You go back to Manoa, for instance, and they were having a heck of a negative time at the time that Thera went off, like the civilization itself was. Now that doesn't mean they cause it so much as amplify an already existing problem.
What about you, Christine? Have you ever heard of any of your clients talking about tectonic plates?
No, not so much. Not my clients. I mean, again, I get a lot of stuff about the tectonic plates, but not my clients per se.
Yeah, that one's a new one for me. What about you, Elizabeth?
Oh, I've got friends in spirit who actually work on relieving stress in fault lines and tectonic plates. People who I know who passed in the 90s. There's one guy in particular that he is so physically strong. He was a big guy and he was physically strong in spirit. He's on the team that ameliorates the stress. And it's not just tectonic plates. It's fault lines. It's different areas of stress. And sometimes I'll find that, some of my guides or some of the guides I want to work with are not available, and they will be going to an area to hold energy. Usually when they do, there will be an earthquake somewhere or a major event somewhere, but it won't be necessarily where they are. They're relieving stress by being at a different point. So, Yeah, for 20 years I've known about this. I've also had an interesting conversation with one of the Akashic Record librarians who talks about the energy of the Akashic Records gets shifted when the Earth shifts. And so he was showing me himself having to do some major Akashic Record mojo for every time we stressed out the planet and we had an event, and it didn't correspond with people's Akashic Records because too many people were being negative and the people who were being positive were caught in the middle, and all these other shades of gray in between. So, there's more energy going on in terms of energy strings, energy input, energy output than we imagine.
Absolutely.
And that makes sense. Okay, so Joyce is asking about ley lines. So do ley lines have a coordination with tectonic plates?
No, ley lines don't. But Keith, do they have a coordination with the neural net?
Yes. With the neural net, they do, and that can have its own side effects. But I do agree with you. Well, I'll defer to you as far as the tectonic plates go. That's because it's your field, not mine.
Yeah, the tectonic plates are really, they're the borders of where mountain building and subsidence happens. So it's really a geologic, tectonic plates are really more geologic, but ley lines are, and they are, sometimes energy from the plates will shift. Like when I was talking about the group that would move energy in order to release pressure, they would move some of that energy through ley lines away from an area of pressure. So it's indirect, but you won't see tectonic plates by and large meshing with ley line points or major convergent points, but you will see ley lines being used to release tectonic pressure.
Yeah, which makes total sense because the ley lines are the net that's wrapped around the Earth, which the neural net interacts with. I sort of look at it myself as if there's a conjunction between a ley line and a tectonic plate, essentially it's pretty much circumstantial or coincidental, if you will.
Right.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but don't the tectonic plates, when you start looking at them, don't they shift when you get an earthquake? Your tectonic plate, the edge of it is shifted now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have one plate going under another. So like an ocean plate will go under a mountain plate, and the mountains are being pushed up while the ocean plate is being pushed down, and you get tremendous heat, and then you get volcanoes because you have to do something with the molten earth from the ocean side plate that's going down becomes molten, and then just a few miles away, or 100 miles away, or 200 poops up as a volcano. So it's the earth recycling itself. It's heat recycling in solid earth form.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth, isn't it true that as well that with the magma moving and the tectonic plates, a lot of the pressure transfers, and once it gets to certain fault lines, that can if pressure builds up, then with no release, it can cause an earthquake.
Yeah, it would cause an earthquake, and again, because we have a neural net and it's related to ley lines, there is a back and forth between the Earth's neural net, and Keith has confirmed this for me, is now connected to people and what people think and feel and do and how polarized they are or how conflicted they are. And so, there is some back and forth between the two, but they're not, it's simply heat that is causing tectonic movement on the large scale. So where you have, for example, Iceland and Hawaii, that's a hot spot, and that's pushing the ocean plate toward a cooler area where North American continent is, and then it's diving under the mountains, and the mountains are being thrown up at the same time. So that's just heat. That's just the world cooling down, which it's been doing for a long time. So, but the ley lines, it really comes to what happens on the surface has a lot to do with what's going on with us.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you end up with the plates moving, or with the different fissures and the different earthquakes, the ley line will still stay in the same place. So if you have a mountain collapse, your ley line is still exactly where it was. It just doesn't have the same landscape.
Yeah. Now I've got a question for you, Keith, with ley lines. Can UFOs or alien craft, do they actually use ley lines to travel?
They use they do and they don't. The ley lines they use for coordinated landing points, for coordinates, for landing coordinates. Even if we're talking jumping light years, they'll use the ley line on a planet to decide where they're going to touch and what they're targeting. This is one of the reasons, by looking at the ley lines around the planet, because those literally are outside the planet. They target the ley lines to know when they're doing a jump, to know where they're to stop because when they're doing it, a lot of them drop out of phase, which means they don't have to worry about the planet in front of them, but they do have to know where that ley line is, so that when they slow the vibration down and come back into the physical form, they're not inside the planet.
Right. It's like you don't want to fly too close to the Earth lest you hit a hill. You know.
Unless you're flying map of the Earth.
Yeah. That's okay, but you don't want to do that at light speed.
Yeah. No. By all means, no. That's what happens with Roswell and Kecksburg and Kingman, and that's a whole other story. But yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, we have about
little craft are highly subjected to lightning and earth energies. Your little pilots, especially if they're aliens, if there's a lightning storm or the Earth is releasing electromagnetic energy, they can get knocked off course, and that's why very very easily and have a crash, much more easily than people. And
I think that's what happened with Roswell and the other crash, because there were two craft with Roswell. There's one in Roswell and one in Mexico.
There was also Nova Scotia at the same time.
Yeah.
So, if I recall right, there was a lightning strike. Which, what's your opinion? Do you think the Roswell crash happened due to a lightning strike that caused two craft to collide?
Quite frankly, it makes total sense. I don't have a way of confirming that. I do remember the crash itself quite well. The thing I find fascinating with it, though, the lightning strike would totally make sense given the weather at the time.
Right.
They actually had, like I said, they had actually 3 crashes, all within a short period. One of the 2 that you're referring to, and then one off the coast of Nova Scotia. And I don't think I'm entirely certain. Try that again?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely certain.
Yeah, there's some saying that there was a new radar being used that might have influenced the pilots or one of the pilots during Roswell, but there's so much Earth energy that's expelled north of the mountains in Lincoln County, New Mexico, that there are actually more ships out there that people don't know about that have crashed due to Earth energy and lightning strikes in New Mexico. Anyway.
Okay, we have exactly 2 minutes, so I got to wrap this thing up. And thank you all for coming. That was a quick 2 hours. It always is on S4. And folks, next week on S4, we are doing our pre-Paracon show. So everybody that's on the show tonight is actually either a speaker or a VIP roundtable guest for the Paracon. So you're going to hear everybody that's here tonight next week as well. But we're going to talk straight Paracon. We're going to talk about what they're speaking about, what their background is, and why they're speaking about that topic, and what you can expect at Paracon, on the 23rd, which is exactly, well, now it's less than 2 weeks because we're actually into Sunday now. So 13 days exactly. You better be in Concrete, Washington, or you're just missing out. So thank you all for coming. Any last words?
I quite frankly, I think the best way to put it is quite literally keep your eyes on the skies because things are starting to change. But for pity's sake,
I agree.
The investigators, you guys have got to start working.
I agree, but like I said in the chat room earlier, about 90% of the teams out there are in it for the wrong reasons, and I don't think that's an overestimation. I think it's pretty accurate because there's 5,000 teams that I'm approaching for GPI, and only about 20 of them have responded. Anyway, we're wrapping it up, and thank you all for coming. Great show. Glad I always love Roundtable. We always talk about interesting topics that go off the question, but we all learn and we all share our knowledge, and it's always great. Y'all have a great week, and any issues to find Forest Moon Paranormal, jump on Facebook, look for us. Christina, where can they find your show?
On the UPRN Talk Radio Network, Monday nights and Thursday nights.
Outstanding. Keith, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me, here quite frequently and on SOR the first Friday of every month from 9 p.m. to midnight.
Outstanding. And everybody else is on Spaced Out Radio, www.spacedoutradio.com. And we are now under the KTLK network. Go check out KTLK, The Fringe. Good night, everybody.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.